Angle in the first. Watch out.
Look at this. Upton pops it up. Left side, Elvis Anderson's backpedaling. He is under it. He puts it away. The Texas Rangers have won a postseason series.
The Texas Rangers are American League champions.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Right on Rangers Live, coming at you back on our usual Wednesday schedule, talking all things MLB offseason. We'll go through the Texas Rangers prospects moving forward here with less than a month until spring training. Pitchers and catchers report. Of course, the Rangers with a couple of different moves over the last couple of weeks. We'll go over all of that, including Jakob Junis, freshly signed from the Cleveland Guardians last year. We'll take all of your comments and questions along the way. We'll talk possibilities for the rest of the offseason. We got a little bit of everything today. Of course, it's going to be hard to top last week. TikTok, I know you guys had to miss the show, but we did a nice, real solid one-on-one interview with Cody Freeman of the Texas Rangers. Rangers rookie utility man. It was great to have Cody on the show. Tried to post at least a few shorts for all of y'all across all of socials. Hope you enjoyed. Maybe it's something we can do again in the season. We'll see. Hopefully my bad questions didn't scare Cody away too much. But I appreciate all of y'all that tuned in. Appreciate some of you on TikTok moving over to YouTube, Instagram to make that happen. Appreciate it. All right. Let's get into it. Let's start with Jakob Junis. By the way, what's up to everybody who's on TikTok right now hanging out? What's up to everybody on YouTube, on X? It's good to see all you guys. I'll be checking the comments a little bit, but let me get through the opening rant here. Not really a rant, but it might turn into one. You know how this goes. Jakob Junis signed a couple of days ago, pitched for the Guardians last year, did have a sub-3 ERA. That definitely looks good on paper. You look at the FIP, you look at the FIP, and it definitely appears that he may have gotten a little bit lucky at times. The FIP was right around 350, I believe, maybe slightly below that. So for those of us that aren't complete baseball nerds like me, FIP is basically, the way I think about it is ERA, but you have kind of a more neutral position. It kind of takes into account the different ballparks that pitchers play in, a variety of different factors. Try and kind of takes luck out of the equation, if you will. So when an FIP, when a FIP is much higher than the ERA, it's indicative that the pitcher may have gotten a little bit lucky. So Junis with the 2.97 ERA and a FIP in the high 340s, may have been a little bit fortunate at times, but that doesn't take away from some very, very promising advanced stats that I've had my eye on. Got them in front of me right now. 92nd percentile when it comes to off-speed value. So this guy's got great off-speed stuff. I think that has to be the one thing that really stood out to me as I went through the highlights of Jakob Junis last year. We're going to talk about some different spots that he was put in during his time in Cleveland. He had a couple of different roles throughout the season. He also is very, very good at inducing weak contact. You got his exit velocity sitting at 87th percentile in the league. You've got the barrel percentage at 82nd percentile as well. This guy is very, very good with the off speed and is very, very good at inducing weak contact. And you figure Jakob Junis comes to Globe Life Field. He comes to Globe Life, what I think most would consider a pitcher's ballpark at this point in time. I think that this is going to be a solid move. I could see them using Jakob Junis in a variety of roles. I think that right now he could kind of fulfill that Sean Armstrong catch-all role, if you will. Armstrong didn't really settle into the closer spot until later on in the season. I could see Jakob Junis being high leverage guy in the 7th inning. You got the bases loaded. You need somebody who can come in and strand some runners. I could see them bringing in Junis. I could see him pitching in the 8th. I could see him pitching in the 9th. Kind of feels a little reminiscent of David Robertson as well. You guys remember a couple years ago, David Robertson was in a variety of roles and did a very, very nice job in 2024 along with Kirby Yates. So I think Junis is going to be versatile unless he really just gets that 9th inning opportunity and locks it down on a number of different tries. And that is definitely a real possibility. We'll see what happens. But this is a 1-year deal, $4 million, very low stress. I think that the Rangers did well to get this guy, and I don't think anybody should be shocked. If anything, this is the one thing nobody really should have been upset about. No one should have been worried about. I think that getting the bullpen piece together is something CY and company have done very well time and time again. So I'm not too worried about how this bullpen comes through. I know some people are still upset that the Rangers didn't go out and get a bona fide lockdown closer in the 9th. I'm willing to give a little bit of grace to the bullpen stuff just because of the success that the Rangers have had with the bullpen the last 2 years. It's really hard to argue with the strategy when they're one of the better bullpens in baseball back-to-back seasons. I think we trust CY and Fenstermaker on this one, at least in this avenue. Maybe you still have some bones to pick with the offense and what they're doing, but I do think when it comes to this pen, even though we don't have the lockdown closer, I do think the words that CY spoke are wise. There's not a lot of teams that really have this lockdown closer. You can go and pay a ton of money for one. There's obviously guys that are a little bit lesser known that do have 9th inning responsibilities. The guys, though, that are household names and really, really good, that there's not a bunch of those growing on trees. I do think the Rangers would do well to not go closer by committee. I'd really like to see them go in to the season with a set closer. I'm hopeful that someone in spring training rises above the rest and really gets an opportunity out the gate to have that closer role. Last year, it was Luke Jackson. It was okay for a little bit. We all know the first try didn't go so well against the Red Sox, but it ended up going okay for a little while. But we know the rest of the story. I would love to see the Rangers identify the 9th inning guy in spring training. I've never been a huge fan of closer by committee, ever. Never been a big fan of it. I don't think historically there are a lot of success stories. I'm not saying there's not any, but I don't think if you look over the history of the game, not sure how many times, what the percentage is on closer by committee being super successful. If I was a betting man, and I am a little bit, but I would probably put a large sum of money that closer by committee does not go super great a majority of the time. Can we go into the season having identified someone in spring training that has crushed it? Can we identify that person to start the 9th inning? That's what I'd like to see. I'm seeing some of you guys talk about Cole Winn. I appreciate that. You guys might remember I put out a video on Cole Winn being kind of a bit forgotten. Admittedly, I think as I thought about our bullpen and our pitching staff, Cole Winn, obviously a first-round pick from about 7 years ago. I think 2018 was the Cole Winn first-round draft pick. Cole Winn's been in the organization for a while. Had a bit of a breakout year last year. I mean, this guy had one of the lowest ERAs in the game. I think he might get an opportunity. I would not say no to it completely. You think about Cole Winn, I know some of you guys are talking about, and Garrett, I was just about to bring this up, some of the underlying numbers. Get specific with the ones that you're thinking about, my guy, but we'll pull Cole Winn's Baseball Savant right now, and we'll get the real deal. I love doing this because most of the time it gives you at least a pretty good look into beyond the numbers, beyond just the box score here. Cole Winn, fastball velo was 75th percentile. Expected batting average, quite high as well. Extension gets, I think, 86th percentile. Sorry, computer was loading for a second. So this is a guy that really extends himself off the mound. Maybe doesn't necessarily have the most live fastball in comparison to guys who are throwing low triple digits, but kind of like you might remember Phil Maton. Phil Maton was throwing low 90s, but because of his extension, it looks like it's getting on you a lot quicker than 91, 92. Cole Winn, I don't think is necessarily going to be the guy out the chute in the ninth inning, but I do think that he possibly could get some opportunities there, depending on how everything unfolds. All right. There's the opener. Let's check some comments here. You keep them coming. I got multiple other things that we got to talk about today, but I appreciate all your guys' input. Would love to go back and forth a little bit. If you got anything you want to ask, if you got something you want to throw in the pot for us to discuss, let's do it. And I will continue on with a couple other segments that we got planned. Resign Spores, Gary, way to bring that one up, man. I was going to get there eventually, but I'm actually really happy about this. And I like that Spores no longer takes up a 40-man spot. But this is a Rangers legend, and I don't say that lightly. I know that when you look at the stats with Josh Spores, it's not like it's anything glamorous. There are obviously guys in the Rangers franchise history that have better numbers. But let's be real. This is the guy that closed out our very first World Series win. I would consider him a Rangers legend for that. And so I'm very, very pleased that they were able to work out a deal to bring Josh Spores back. We talked about it on the show multiple times. You know, Josh Spores, the velocity was just not there post-injury recovery. He was throwing low 90s in AA and AAA. You might remember, you might not. It's been a while. Josh Spores was in the upper 90s when he was pitching for us in 2023. This was a guy that had a live fastball, a guy that you'd like to have at the back of a bullpen closing out games or at least holding them in the 8th and 9th inning. So it was troubling when he was coming back from injury to see 92, 93. It's not that Sporsy doesn't have elite off speed, but he came into the league as a bit of a flamethrower. And when you lose that, you have even more limited margin for error. I hope that Spores has a great spring training, and I hope he makes the front office make a difficult decision whether or not he's added to the 40-man and he's a guy that is counted on in the bullpen for us, or whether he goes to AAA, spends some time there, and is kind of a reliever waiting in the wings, if you will. I love the Josh Spores signing. Not sure if it's going to amount to anything or not. I'm hopeful that it will. I don't think that this is a guy that is going to right away get thrust into some big-time role, but it would be an incredible story if Josh Spores could find a way, work his way back into the bullpen, into some high-leverage spots, and really make what would be a pretty incredible comeback considering the injuries he's dealt with over the last couple of seasons. Let's keep on going. Max Power, yes, absolutely. The velo was down. Luis won a World Series and don't want to spend any money. I'm going to talk about that in a second. How about a guy like Kopech or Giolito? Giolito is a guy that I think as a starting pitcher, Rangers probably have their eye on as a bit of an innings eater. Giolito's not terrible. He's not like a bad pitcher. I wouldn't say he's great or elite. I wouldn't even necessarily say above average, but he is a guy that I think will give you a chance to win. He obviously has some good pedigree. Giolito was one of the top prospects in the game as he was coming up. And I think that having a guy like that in the rotation would be great insurance. We've got a few guys that I think have some question marks. We love DeGrom. We love Evo. We love Jack Leiter. We love Kumar Rocker here on the show. I think with DeGrom and Evo, you have to consider health as a factor. You cross your fingers and you hope that both of those guys can stay healthy. But let's be fair. They have struggled with injuries at different times in their careers. They are getting a little bit older in age. And I think that with Jack Leiter, you're hopeful that he continues to take those steps forward. I'm not sure that anybody in the rotation beyond maybe those top two guys that I named is a lock for big time success this season. I think there are question marks. Can Jack Leiter build off of 2025? I think there are some people that feel really good about that. And I think there's some people that think the jury is still out. I'm probably somewhere in between. I like what I've seen from Jack. I'm hopeful and I feel confident that he will at least maintain what he achieved in 2025. Man, I hope that he is able to take it to that level where maybe he's getting talked about as, you know, if you weren't in DeGrom or Evo rotation, if you weren't in the same rotation as them, maybe getting talked about as that borderline number 2 starter. I'm not saying he's going to take that away from DeGrom or Evo. Again, don't get it twisted, but we're talking about in a rotation without those two guys. I hope that Jack continues to assert himself into those conversations. For me, I would probably rather do something different than Giolito. Mason, I'm totally with you on this. I personally would like to see us go get Chris Bassett. Of course, Bassett pitched for the Blue Jays. This is a guy that, you know, we're not talking about the Peraltas, and you know, we're not talking about the top guys on the market, but we're talking about a guy in Chris Bassett who's very solid. The advanced stats above average, I think, by and large. I think Bassett is going to be one of the more expensive options left. You're talking about a contract probably in the high teens for Bassett based on projections that I've seen. I would like to see the Rangers sign him. I think he may be a little too expensive, but that would be my number one choice. Beyond that, if you're not going to do either one of those deals, you might as well go ahead and just announce the Patrick Corbin 1-year deal. I joked about it a little bit on X. For those of you that don't follow me yet over there, throw out a lot of different tweets throughout each day. If you only follow me on TikTok or YouTube and you have an account on X, formerly Twitter, of course, follow me over there. I post on all the other socials as well throughout the day. But I basically said, you know, at this point, I think if you're not going to be in for one of the big fish, you might as well bring Corby back on a 1-year deal. Just let him eat up some more innings at the back of that bullpen. I would like to see them go get Bassett. I'd like to see the Rangers go get a guy that maybe isn't top of the line, maybe isn't front line, but somewhere in the middle. But, you know, when in doubt, bring back Corby on a 1-year deal, right? Look, I was a big Patrick Corbin supporter. I know some Rangers fans could not stand him every time he pitched. I feel like Pat Corbin had a ton of bad luck last year. Pat Corbin in 25, I felt like was what Andrew Heaney experienced for us in 2024. Y'all remember, I'm sure, Heen Dog in 24 was like every single game Andrew Heaney pitched, we were in it. It was like 3-2, 3-1. Heaney was consistently keeping us in ball games, but the record was ugly because the dude would just get no run support. I kind of feel similarly about Pat Corbin. I feel like Pat Corbin had a ton of good outings for us, but you know what? The offense was so bad at times last year. If Pat Corbin gave up 3 runs, it was done. That was it. He's only going to go 5 or 6 innings. So I feel like Pat Corbin was a lot better than what some Rangers fans gave him credit for. But I am a Patrick Corbin truther. I got to throw that out there. I know some people aren't on board. That's okay. We can agree to disagree. Brian, what's good, man? Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you. Hey, TLC, I'm glad you figured it out, man. My take on these lives, by the way, I know some of y'all lovingly, like, Austin, come on, man. Give us a little bit of a heads up, like when you're going to go live. I've tried to do Wednesdays consistently. I've gotten a little bit off. Last week we had to go on Thursday, working it out with Cody's schedule, which I was more than happy to do, by the way. But look, I kind of figure if you're available, you'll tune in. If not, you always know YouTube. We got the replay there. If you ever wonder what we're up to on a show, you're not able to make it happen, go over to YouTube, check it out. All these lives get posted there. So on TikTok, if you're hanging out, you didn't realize everything's over on YouTube if you ever don't make a show, which is totally all good. I get it. Middle of the week, middle of the work week. It's not always going to happen, but we're glad to have you here. It's great hanging out, talking baseball, man. I'm getting more and more excited about the season coming up. All right. Let's get over to TikTok a little bit. Make sure I didn't miss anything crazy. Are we going to see a repeat of Panda Assassin? You might be onto something there, man. I got to think about that one. What free agent that's still on the market or trade candidate would you go after if you're CY? Well, for me, the guy going into the offseason was Ketel Marte, but the Diamondbacks obviously pulled him off the market, which I understand. The Diamondbacks are shaping up to be a pretty good team. I think they already were a pretty competitive team as it was. Granted, they play in a really tough division out in the NL West. You got the Padres, you got the Dodgers, of course. You got a tough sledding if you're a Diamondbacks fan. And if you're on the Diamondbacks, they've got a great team, but they got to deal with some juggernauts over there in the NL West. I do think that Ketel Marte would have been an outstanding guy for the Rangers to go out and get. Not going to happen. At this point, I think you've got a couple of different options. You've got Luis Arraez, who we've talked about a lot this offseason on the show. And I know that opinions on Arraez vary among Rangers fans. I've said this. I'm not going to turn my nose up to anybody. It never makes sense to me. You know, the people are like, no, I don't want Arraez. I mean, look, come on. The Rangers at this point, I think, would be very, very fortunate to be able to get a guy like Arraez. Miguel Andujar is another name that we've thrown out there a little bit here on the show, and I know is getting a lot of attention this week as, you know, Cody Bellinger goes off the market. Yankees signed him to a 5-year deal today. I do think those are the two guys, though, that stand out the most to me. Miguel Andujar batted over 300 last year, raked against lefties. We're talking about a guy that had almost a 1,000 OPS against lefties that last year. That honestly was one of the biggest issues for the Texas offense, if you remember. The Rangers could not consistently hit lefties. I believe we looked it up on the show maybe a month ago. Like, the Rangers were bottom 5 in OPS versus lefties last year in the major leagues, not even American League, bottom 5. You've got a guy, I think, with a 986 OPS in Miguel Andujar. You're not talking about an everyday starter, but every time a lefty's out there, you bring that guy off the bench. Every time a lefty is starting a game, you have him in the starting lineup. I think that would be a great guy for the Rangers to get. Luis Arraez is a little bit of a tougher fit, in my opinion. It's not that he wouldn't work in the lineup. There's just a little bit more uncertainty. Where's he going to play? Who's he going to take time away from? I think Andujar, it's pretty obvious. You're going to put him in there for a guy like Jock Peterson at DH, right? And you're going to do that on a platoon basis. You might throw Andujar out in the outfield and give Evan Carter a day off here and there against lefties. Andujar feels like a much smoother fit. Arraez, you'll take him, but it feels a little more messy working out the playing time. Do you want to have him play second base? Yeah, not a very good defender. Not a reason I would say no, by the way. There's very limited perfect players left at this point in the game. That's another thing. When people start nitpicking the guys that are left in free agency, I'm like, dude, at this point, you're not going to find a lot of guys that have zero flaws in the free agent market. You're not. I mean, look, Cody Bellinger, he was probably one of the last top-tier free agents available. I know there's a couple other guys, but you're just not going to find a perfect guy at this point in the ballgame. So for me, the defense, the bad defense for Arraez isn't enough to stay away, but I will concede it is a little bit of a messier fit. You let me know how you feel about it. Peterson, an overpaid bust. Yeah, Peterson's got a lot to prove this year. He's got a lot to prove. Is Arraez an automatic hit every game? Real reviews, it feels like it sometimes. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's won the batting title, 3 times? Luis Arraez is for real when it comes to the bat-to-ball skills. And that is something that we know Skip Schumacher is valuing a lot this year. Luis Arraez, probably the best bat-to-ball guy in the game. We're talking about contact, right? I don't know if there's a guy better than him. We're talking about an individual that struck out 21 times all year long. Again, I think we joked on the show a couple weeks ago. Some guys on the Rangers did that number in 1 week. It felt like maybe 2 if we're being generous. 21 strikeouts for Luis Arraez the entire 2025 season. I mean, it's ridiculous. So from that perspective, Arraez is a great fit. The Rangers clearly want better bat-to-ball skills throughout the lineup. They want some guys taking different approaches. It is going to be really interesting. I think in spring training, you're going to see a lot of emphasis on who is adopting the approach that Skip and that other coaching staff members have wanted to instill in the offseason and want to see happen in the 2026 season. I think that in spring training, it's going to be really tempting to cherry pick the box scores. Who's got a high average? Who doesn't? I actually think in this spring training, you're going to see more of an emphasis placed on evaluating approaches over numbers. I think you're going to see the coaching staff look at how guys are attacking at bats, how guys are putting the ball in play, situational hitting. I would like to think there's going to be less emphasis on the box score, a lot more on who's actually adopting the approach. I think guys like Josh Young, I think, obviously other guys in the lineup as well that struggled a little bit throughout the year. You've got a number of different names that come to mind. Jake Berger, although maybe some of his was injury related. You've just got a number of guys that the Rangers are going to be watching very carefully in regards to their approach to every at bat. We'll see what happens. CY on the hot seat. I've said that. Luis, I've said that a number of times. I do think that CY is a little bit overhyped. CY, I think, has gotten off pretty easy in regards to some of the bad moves that he's made. I think that a lot of people obviously look at 2023 with CY and they give him a lot of love and praise. If I'm keeping it a buck, I think we've talked about this a number of times. I know that's kind of my catchphrase tonight. But look, I'll be a broken record for this. John Daniels, I think you got to give the guy a lot of credit for what the Rangers accomplished in 2023. And I've named off a number of players that were brought in the John Daniels era. Josh Young, big instrumental piece in 2023. Evan Carter, a big instrumental piece in 2023. Adolis Garcia. Adolis Garcia was probably the reason that we advanced to the World Series. All these guys are guys that John Daniels brought in. And so I don't think that CY gets no credit for 2023, but he definitely doesn't get all of it. And the past 2 seasons have not been great. You didn't make the playoffs. You really looked ugly at times last year with the offense. You made a couple of pretty bad deadline deals in a row. The Merrill Kelly deal did not work out. It doesn't matter what the philosophy was. And please, nobody say, at least he's trying. You don't get paid to try. You and me could try to put together a roster. They are not paying CY to be a trier. They're paying CY to be right. And CY was not right about the Merrill Kelly trade. They didn't even make the playoffs, and you dealt 3 of your top 15 prospects. Don't give me any of this. Hey, the thought process was there. That's not what these guys get paid for, man. It's not what they get paid for. They get paid to be right. And so I'll never accept that excuse. It's a tough business. You've got to be right more than you're wrong. And CY's been wrong 2 deadlines in a row. I don't know if he's on the hot seat. Going back to that original question from Luis, I don't know if he's on the hot seat, but I also don't know why he's not if he isn't. I know that's a little bit of a word salad, but I don't know what argument you can really make for why he shouldn't be. But I don't know what Ray Davis is thinking about CY. If I was Ray Davis, here's what I would be thinking. You spent $35 million last year on the tandem of Jock Peterson and Tyler Mahle, both who missed a lot of games. And Tyler Mahle didn't so much underperform. He was actually really dominant, but he didn't stay healthy. And the Rangers were betting on Tyler Mahle staying healthy for 2025. That didn't really happen. Jock Peterson, we don't even need to bring that up. Let's not pour salt in the wound. That was $35 million CY spent on those two guys in 2025. That's not good. And I think you also consider the trade. You dumped 3 top 15 prospects for a guy that went right back to Arizona. This is why I've said the people that are really, really harsh on Ray Davis, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. If you were in Ray Davis's position, maybe you're giving CY a blank check to do whatever he wants with it. But can you blame Ray Davis for being a little bit gun shy? Can you blame Ray Davis for looking at the Jock Peterson deal, for looking at the Merrill Kelly trade, and maybe questioning, what are we doing here? What are we doing right now? I know if I just had $35 million, or look, if you want to throw out Mahle, fine. Let's throw out the Mahle number. If I just wasted $18 million, I don't know that I'm super ready to give my financial advisor another 18 mil to go invest. Probably feeling a little bit inquisitive. And I'm being nice when I use that word. I'm feeling a little bit uncertain if I want to dump more money into the hands of a guy that's had some trouble with making the most of it in the past. And there is my defense of Ray Davis. I know you're going to continue to see a lot of Ray Davis hate from people that want to see the Rangers spend more money. I think you have to consider, if you're upset with Ray Davis, direct some of that to Chris Young, who has not done the best job with his resources. I don't think there is any denying that when you've missed the playoffs the last 2 years. Call it harsh. I don't think it's disrespectful. I just think it's a reality. I think it's fair. You missed the playoffs back-to-back years. Yes, you can blame the players. But at the end of the day, I think you also have to look at CY and the front office. All right. Keep going. At least you guys who are Rangers fans don't have to deal with Artie Moreno. Truth. Preach it. Luis, I would say Wyatt Langford for power. Langford for sure. Nimmo will probably give you a little bit too. Keep going. D-backs forever. What's good if you're still hanging out? Yup, baseball almost here. Love it. Love it, love it. TLC, the last deadline, it was clear they were not going anywhere. Yup, agreed there. We had an elite offense in 2023, a bunch of high draft picks with promising prospects like Langford, and we're sitting here 2 years later looking at rebuilding. CY is awful. Garrett, look, you laid it out there a lot more in your face than I did. I'm trying to be nice, but look, I think there's a lot of truth to what that comment just said. I don't think there's a lot of ways you can really pitch that CY is not on the hot seat. Maybe Ray Davis and him, and you're just not going to see Ray pull the trigger, make a different move. But how do you miss the playoffs 2 years in a row after winning it all? And to miss it in the fashion that you missed it last year, just looking like a AAA squad, really. In terms of offense, scoring 2, 3, whatever it was, runs a game. Like, I love a lot of these Rangers guys. I know that what I'm saying is definitely going to come off a little harsh, but the offense was not good enough last year. And I think that you've got to point back to the people putting together the roster at some point. Yes, there's guys on the field with bats in their hands that you probably need to blame first and foremost, but right behind them are the people that put the bats in their hands by giving them a spot on the team. Let's just follow the logical trail here. Appreciate you guys. Matthew, appreciate that, man. The comment is, hope you guys take care of Nimmo. From a Mets fan. Hey, man, same for Simeon. I think Marcus did not have the ending that he would have liked to in Arlington. Rangers fans really never got a chance to say goodbye to Marcus because of his injury. I was a big Marcus Semien fan, and in some ways I still am. Not going to be as big of one now that he's on another team, but we'll always have a special place for Marcus Semien in my heart. And I think there's a lot to like about him. Clearly, we know there was a little drama between him and Seager. It is what it is, but I hope Semien does well in New York. I really don't know who would be wishing him any ill will. I think that Marcus, by and large, he gave Texas all he had. He helped us win a championship. I wish him nothing but the best. Keep on going. Do I think the Rangers re-sign Danny Coulombe? No, I don't see a Coulombe reunion. I would like it, but I just don't see it happening. I think the Rangers are really going to do the nickel and dime thing, just like they did last year, right? They signed a bunch of guys, and we were like, who? They signed Sean Armstrong. They signed Hobie Milner. In the offseason, we were all just like, who? Hey, we all had to look these guys up just to see what kind of years they had. Jacob Webb, right? I mean, there's all these different guys that the Rangers signed last year at value, and Rangers fans didn't know a whole lot about them before they came to Arlington and started pitching from that mound. I think they're going to do the same thing this year. I have no clue what Coulombe's market is. If he came back in Ranger red, white, and blue, I'd be thrilled. I liked what I saw from him, but I would be surprised if they bring him back. Happy Wednesday to you too, Daniel. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, I think all accounts are that Carter is healthy and ready to contribute. I think Skip has talked a number of times, Brian, about Evan Carter being an everyday player. And so I do think he is going to be given a primo opportunity to get a lot of ABs in 2026. Clearly, if he doesn't do well against lefties, that is going to be something the club is going to have to address pretty quickly. I don't know that Evan Carter has unlimited runway just because of the fact that this offense, there's not a lot of margin for error. This isn't a stacked lineup. Are there a lot of good players in the lineup? Yes. Are there players with good potential? Absolutely. Is this the Dodgers lineup where, if Freddie Freeman goes over, there's probably a couple other dudes that have multiple hits? I don't know about that. I think that this lineup, there's going to be a razor thin margin for error. And so I don't know if Evan Carter is going to get just unlimited runway to struggle his way through hitting against lefties. I think the Rangers will give him some opportunities. If he looks competent, if he's having some success, great. If he's really struggling out the gate, I don't think the Rangers are going to wait around for Evan Carter to kick it into gear. It might be something that has to get put on the back burner until, I don't even want to put this out there, either the Rangers are out of contention this year, or when the Rangers have just an astronomical lead in the AL West that it really doesn't matter. We're going to go with the second option to keep things positive here on the show. Keep on going. Zach Gallen, I know a lot of people are high on Zach Gallen. Uncle Ted, appreciate you, man. I think Zach is coming off a down year. That might be working for teams that are looking to sign him. The advanced stats, we're talking about Cole Wynn's advanced stats earlier. The Zach Gallen advanced stats are not super pretty from 2025. He was 86th percentile in off-speed run value, so the off-speed was still pretty good. But you're talking about a guy with a lot of blue. If you're familiar with Baseball Savant pages, I mean, there was not a lot on Zach Gallen's page that jumps off the chart at you. His highest percentile rank is ground ball percentage at 61. After that, it's extension, which we talked about a little bit when it came to Cole Winn, at 61 as well. Everything else is mid or below average stuff. I really am a little bit hesitant on Gallen. I do think pitching at Globe Life will help him if the Rangers are able to sign him. I think that would definitely be something that you point to. Gallen's going to bounce back. I think a lot of guys coming to Globe Life to pitch are going to see a little bit of an uptick in their numbers. So I could see Gallen coming to Arlington, really pitching well in what's become a pitcher's park. We were talking about this with Jakob Junis, who pitched for the Guardians last year. So, am I totally out on Gallen? No. But are some of the numbers that he put up last year, especially in the advanced stats, a little bit concerning? Yes. But if Rangers announce tonight that they signed Zach Gallen, what do we get here, Uncle Ted? 3 years, $55 million? Yeah, I'll take that. I will take that. Absolutely. All right, we keep going. Appreciate you guys. Dodgers win again. Dodgers are definitely going to be the favorites. I'll say this about the Dodgers. I don't want to go on and on and on about this. I know that many, many people around the sport have talked about the Dodgers ad nauseum after they signed Kyle Tucker. And in fact, a couple days ago, Katie Wu, one of the MLB reporters, announced that the Dodgers are potentially in on Freddie Peralta, maybe going to make a trade for him. It feels like that would break the internet. But I think when it comes to the Dodgers, I said this right away when they signed Kyle Tucker. If the Dodgers were in the AL West, I'd be a lot more concerned. I think at this point, like it or not, I'm just being real with you. I think the fact that we play them in one or two series a year, I'm not too worried about what the Dodgers have. And I'll say this, anytime you've got a 7-game series, I'm convinced anything can happen. Look at the Blue Jays last year. The Blue Jays, in all honesty, they should have won that World Series. They didn't. They didn't get across the finish line. The Dodgers, more resilient, got the job done. This isn't a debate on, who deserved it, but the Blue Jays, they should have won the World Series last year. They had every opportunity to do so, and they didn't get it done. But the Blue Jays had that chance, and I think a lot of people thought the Dodgers were going to run away with it last year, and they didn't. And so I will take my chances with the Dodgers in a 7-game series if the Rangers are blessed to make it back to October and make it all the way back to the championship round. I'll take my chances with the Dodgers in a 7-game set. It's the teams that have to play them 15 times a year. I know I'm rounding up a little bit, by the way. It's the Padres and the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. It's the teams that have to play the Dodgers 15 times in the regular season and compete with them to get into the dance that I would be a lot more frustrated to be a part of that fan base. I think at this point, the Rangers won 7-game set. You take your chances. Anything can happen in October. But the Dodgers clearly going to be big favorites. The one thing I also want to add in about the Dodgers that a lot of people don't want to hear. It's true that many of their players are bought, but it's also true the Dodgers do a nice job developing players. Think about some of the massive trades the Dodgers have made over the years. The Dodgers traded a decade ago for Manny Machado. Remember Corey Seager went out injured. I think he had Tommy John or, UCL, something like that. And the Dodgers went out and traded for Baltimore Oriole at the time, Manny Machado. Tried to re-sign him in the offseason. I feel like that was kind of the moment when Seager probably decided, I'm not sticking around here when the contract is up. I also think you look at Mookie Betts. Think about the Mookie Betts trade. I mean, the Dodgers have developed talent well enough to be able to attract teams to take their prospects and in return give them superstars. So Mookie Betts trade, another one. You think about the Scherzer and Trey Turner trade. I mean, the Dodgers have made all of these series of moves. And yes, a lot of them are paying a lot of money for really good talent. But they also have a strong contingency of, hey, we've made some really good moves in the developmental process, enough to the point where we're able to go get big stars in trades because we have the prospects that attract other teams. This isn't stuff I love to say out loud, by the way, but I just don't like the people pretending like the Dodgers are only good at spending money. I think that's pretty ignorant if that's your take. You have to consider everything that I just said, along with the fact that the guy that won them the World Series last year, and obviously it's a team sport, but go with the hyperbole here. The guy that won them the World Series last year was homegrown. Will Smith, first round pick by the Dodgers several years ago. Dude hits the go-ahead home run in the World Series to win in Game 7. I don't know. The Dodgers takes, clearly I don't love seeing them get all of these top names. I don't love it. But let's not go over the top. The Dodgers have done a nice job as an organization, both getting players through trades, developing talent, and yes, buying talent as well. Yamamoto was absolutely the guy. I don't think there's any denying that the bought stars contributed quite a bit to the Dodgers winning it all. I think my take here, McJ, is let's pull back the reins a little bit on all the Dodgers do is spend. I think they do a lot of other things well. Also, don't like saying it out loud. Wish that the Rangers were on the level that the Dodgers are in when it comes to development, when it comes to trades. I don't think that you can say confidently that that's the case right now. And it hurts to say. It really does. Keep going. Number 2, yeah. Look, I try to keep it real. Does my bias show here and there? Absolutely. Never, ever professed to keeping it 100% objective here at Right on Rangers. The name of the team's in the freaking account name. Come on now. You know how it goes. But yes, I do my best to be objective. The Astros are probably the one team that it's nearly impossible for me to do so with. But I think I had some pretty objective Astros takes last year as well. I know a lot of people accuse me of being a hater, but I felt pretty confident the Astros were not going anywhere special last year. Sure enough. Much to my delight, by the way. We keep going. Joey Gallo comp. Wow. I don't think I've gotten a Joey Gallo comp. Cal Raleigh is the big one that I always get. I've never gotten a Joseph Gallo comp. I was thinking about Joey Gallo the other day. Bear with me here. This is going in a good direction. Joey Gallo, obviously a bit of a Rangers fan favorite, I would say. A lot of, at least my friends and I, appreciated Joey Gallo's time in Texas. Clearly, it didn't go very well after he left. And I know he's trying to make a comeback now as a pitcher. I was thinking about Joey because he's a Boris guy. And right now, you're seeing a lot of different things happening with Scott Boras clients. Ellie De La Cruz was in the news, I think yesterday, having rejected a pretty sizable extension offer by the Reds. A lot of Boras clients we know have been encouraged to not sign those extensions and hit the open market. Of course, that is where you make more money, and Scott Boras makes more money. Feel bad for Joey Gallo. You wonder what would have happened to Texas had Joey Gallo signed that extension that was on the table in the late 2010s, right? It was on the table. And they decided, nope, we're not signing the extension in Arlington. We're testing the open market. Joey Gallo was traded, and the rest is history. I bring that up because I'm thinking about Wyatt Langford. And Wyatt Langford is a guy that's not represented by Scott Boras, which I'm thankful for. I would love to see the Rangers find a way to extend Wyatt. Would love that. I really think that that needs to be a priority before these salaries get out of hand. I do think you could go out, you could offer Wyatt 25, I think 10 years, 250. I think that that's reasonable for Wyatt Langford. I do. I know some people don't want to commit right now. They're still a little bit unsure about Wyatt. I think most people with half a baseball brain can see this kid is going to be good. And look, McJ, that's a starting point. That's a starting point. I'd start 10 years, 250. 10 years, 250. And I think the only reason why I feel comfortable starting there is I don't think Wyatt's going to make $25 million a year in arbitration. Wyatt is not even in arbitration yet. So McJay, my thought process here is if you do the $25 million a year extension, you're covering some of those ARB years where he wouldn't be making as much. Maybe he still doesn't take the deal. But I don't think Wyatt is going to command 25 mil in ARB 1, 2, and 3. I think he might get upper teens. Maybe he sniffs low 20s. But I do think that 10 years, 250 mil would be a good starting point for him. I do think at the end of his rookie contract, whatever you want to call it, the end of his 7 years, 7 years, I didn't mean to do it, but I did it, of club control, I think 40 million is not going to shock me. It's not. He was 175 days away from Super 2 ARB. That's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yep. Look, Wyatt to me is a guy you have to try and extend. Have to. Joey Gallo's facial expressions were hilarious. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he had some classics. I'll never forget in MLB The Show, I think it was in 2020, MLB The Show, they had the wildest pic of him on there. He actually was really cool about it. Joey, during the pandemic, I know he was doing some streaming for MLB The Show, having some fun with that. And he brought it up one time in one of his streams that they kind of did him wrong with the facial expressions in MLB The Show for him. Joey Gallo, one of my favorite Rangers. I'm sorry. Sad that it didn't work out better for him when he went on to New York and LA. And of course, then went on to Minnesota and a couple other places. But hopefully he lands on his feet as a pitcher. That'd be a pretty cool story. Keep on rolling. Hey, Mike, what's good, man? Good to hang out. Y'all are wrong. This 40 to 50 million year stuff for non-generational players is a bubble that's going to bust soon. Possibly. So look, Mike, are you out on Wyatt as maybe one day reaching that generational status? I would probably hesitate to say Wyatt's going to be generational. I do think Wyatt is going to be an all-star one day. I think he is going to be an all-star caliber player. Is he going to be one of the all-time greats? I don't know. That's why I would start at 10 years, 25 mil. I do think 25 mil a year for Wyatt Langford over the course of 10 years is going to age well. I don't think that you're going to see that one fall off a cliff. Yeah, you bump that number up to 40 AAV. I'm with you. But I do think Wyatt is going to be a quality player in this league, a guy that consistently is going to work his way into all-star voting, going to be a guy that's considered up there among the top outfielders in the game. Generational, I don't know. I don't think that you're paying Wyatt. I think this is a little bit of a short-sighted take. People bringing up Wyatt as a 775 OPS. Bit of a short-sighted take. I don't think that you're paying Wyatt based on what he's accomplished in 2 years in the big leagues. I think you're paying Wyatt for the potential. I think you're paying Wyatt for everything that a lot of people feel that he's going to become. There's risk in everything. There's risk in signing MLB players. Think about the Josh Hamilton Los Angeles Angels contract. That was a guy whose OPS was off the charts. Off the charts. Was he worth the Angels contract? Hambone wasn't. Same thing for Albert Pujols. I don't think we can base everything off of what did they do last year. You've got to factor in potential. You've got to factor in everything. Everything. Look, Uncle Ted, you're giving Jock Peterson $18 million a year, and you're scoffing at Wyatt Langford getting paid $25. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, you start with Jock Peterson's getting paid $18 million a year as a platoon player. Bro, I don't think that $25 million is the reach that you think it is. A platoon player got paid $18 million a year, and we're scoffing at Wyatt Langford for $25 million? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, brother. Yeah, I think you got to follow things logically, and if a platoon player is getting paid $18 million, Wyatt Langford, an everyday player who I think has a lot more promise than a 30-something Jock Peterson. I think 25 mil is going to be a get. AAV for Jock Peterson, by the way, I agree with you here, brother. I really do. I agree with this. 18 mil for a platoon player is wild. So I think we have to separate. I'm not necessarily saying that I think these numbers are exactly what these guys are worth. I just think it's what's going to happen. 8 for 200, possibly. I could see an 8 for 200. That's 25 mil a year for all of my non-math people. And by the way, I'm not a super great math guy. I'm actually pretty proud of myself. I did this math on the fly, Mike. 8 for 200, 25 mil a year. I think that's really reasonable. And I think Wyatt should take that. You're not going to get 25 million a year in ARB. You're just not. Wyatt Langford is going to get single digits in ARB1. He might get up into the teens for ARB2. If he really crushes it, he might get into the 20s for ARB3. Wyatt is not going to make 25 million a year in arbitration. So I think from that angle, you pitch it to him, dude, we're giving you 25 mil in your ARB years. I mean, Ellie De La Cruz just said no, though, so who knows? This is a wild stat. Langford more WAR than Tucker. That's wild. That's crazy. I would not have guessed that. I know Tucker missed some time with injury, right, McJay? But that's wild. That is also why I think 25 mil, pretty doable for him. How many 2-year rookies would you take over him? It's a very small number. Yeah, I agree. It is a small number. Uncle Ted, your point's well taken. Like, if you don't have to pay more, why should you? But I think, again, what you're looking at is, can we wrap him up in the ARB years so that way we get a few years of him at a reasonable price, 25 mil, I think, in 2029, 2030, whatever it is when Wyatt gets into the end of his ARB years and into his free agent years. If you can lock up Wyatt Langford's first few years as an unrestricted free agent at 25 mil a year, I think most people are going to feel like that's a steal. Tucker was hurt a little bit last year for sure. Yeah, Mike, agree. You could definitely pitch it to Wyatt as you'll still get another free agency. Wyatt is probably going to be late 20s. He would be, right around 30, 31. You can still get a very nice 5 or 6 year deal. If Wyatt did sign that 8-year contract right now, he would be early 30s and still probably able to get one more nice contract, maybe a 4 or 5 year deal. I agree with you here. I think Uncle Ted, it's coming. Good thing to ask here. Are you thinking he's going to continue to stay right around that 775 mark? I think Wyatt is going to be up there. I think he will continue to improve. I think he goes for over 800 for the OPS this year. I think he does. Keep on going. Appreciate you guys. Thoughts on Josh Smith? Where does he fit in this year? I think he's going to be the first guy up in terms of the second base spot. I do think that it's going to be a short leash. I don't think Josh Smith is going to be given unlimited ground to figure it out. I think the Rangers will probably be pretty quick to mix in some other guys, but I do think Josh Smith, it's his position to lose. I think he's going to get the first crack at it. I think Cody Freeman and Haggerty and some of the other guys in the mix, Duran, if they kill it in spring training, maybe they make it an interesting decision. But I do think that Josh Smith gets the first crack at second base, probably comes out of spring training as the starter, and who knows from there. We'll see if he can sustain the success that he has in the first half throughout the entire season. Josh Smith has started out 24 and 25, very hot, and has had a bit of an issue finishing seasons. We'll see if that changes in 2026. Keep on going. Appreciate all you guys hanging out. Padres paid Merrill. That's a good example. I think we actually talked about, the Padres Merrill signing as an example of what the Rangers could do with Wyatt Langford. The player has to be agreeable, and I think Merrill, he said it. Like he wanted to stay in San Diego, wanted to get things locked up, wasn't trying to be greedy. I don't know what Wyatt is at or where he's at with that whole scenario, but man, it would be nice if the Rangers could pull something off like the Padres did with Merrill. What do I think about Rowdy Tellez in first base for the Rangers? I don't think Rowdy's coming back. I think he is probably going to latch on somewhere else, but the Rangers have too many first base options. I mean, think about it. The Rangers have Berger, Jock Peterson, spent some time working at first base last year. I believe he's doing the same thing this year. Josh Smith can play first base. Ezekiel Duran can play first base. They've got so many guys on the roster right now that can play first base. I don't think that they are going to have any new first baseman come into the mix. I mean, look, I like Rowdy Tellez a lot. I'm not saying that he would be a bad guy to have on the team, but I just think first base is log jammed. I don't think there's any room for Rowdy. You would much rather bring in somebody a little bit more versatile. Again, maybe an Andujar, a guy that can play infield, outfield. I'd rather have kind of this conglomerate of utility players than bring in guys that can only play one position or DH. That's true, McJay. You got Ortiz as well down there at AAA, who potentially could come up and play some first base too. I think that that's a very fair point. So there's just not a lot of opportunity for a guy like Rowdy. I don't really think you would bring him in unless there are a couple of major injuries, which nobody wants to see. I think that's the only scenario he comes back. Uncle Ted, I'm kind of on the opposite side here. The Rangers' biggest struggle in 2025, one of them at least, was hitting lefties. I think they need to bring in a right-handed bat that can help them in that department. You've got also Nimmo getting swapped in for Simeon. Nimmo is not a bad hitter against lefties per se, but you've got a pretty lefty-heavy lineup. I think the Rangers would do well to go out and get a right-handed bat. Now, if you have a Luis Arraez type, a guy that isn't as good against lefties, but is still a decent hitter, I think, sure, fine, but I think you got to go out and get a right-handed bat. A guy like Miguel Andujar, I think, would do wonders in the lefty starter lineup. A guy that hit almost 1,000 OPS when it came to facing lefties last year. I think you've got to go out and improve the left-handed starting pitching lineup. Have to. I think that is a no-brainer. Unless, you're in for Bellinger, which clearly he went off the market. I think you make an exception for a star, but if you can't get stars, go get guys that can hit lefties. Mike, this is 100% on point, brother. The Rangers were getting so badly lined up against lefty starters at times last year. I know that it wasn't widely reported, but you could just totally tell teams were swapping in lefties. They were rearranging their rotations, trying to get the left-handed lineup, if at all possible, multiple times in a series. Look, the right-handed lineup wasn't crushing it either, but the Rangers oftentimes were getting lined up against lefties, and I think that was a major issue last year. I think the Rangers have to go out. If they can get a right-handed bat that can hit lefties well, you go make that move. You go make it. You got plenty of lefties right now. Think about it. You've got Josh Smith. You've got Carter. You've got Seager. You've got Nimmo. You've got Jock. That's 5 guys. That's over half the lineup right there. And we're not even mentioning some of the other guys too. You got 5 starters that are left-handed hitters already. You want to add a 6th in the mix? I don't think you want 6 lefties in a lineup. I think 5 is plenty. I think you've got to mix it up a little bit. I think going out and getting a right-handed bat is the thing to do. The advanced stats are ugly. I mean, the OPS is ugly. The advanced stats are ugly as well. Mike, I hope that this is true. I know that Heyman reported that the Rangers are among I think 5 other teams that are in the mix for Miguel Andujar. Love it. Absolutely love it. I would like to see that move made. Miguel Andujar, he hit, I believe, slightly under 300 in 2024, hit over 300 in 2025. And this is a guy that can play infield. He can play outfield. I like the versatility with Miguel Andujar as well, not just the bat. I think it will be nice to have a guy like him that can play on the left side of the infield if you need. I believe he played third base coming up. He's played some outfield. So you got, again, Evan Carter needing a day. You can throw Miguel Andujar out there and left. You can have Wyatt Langford take over center field. I think there's a lot of positives to Andujar. Absolutely. He is trolling. Uncle Ted, you are just trolling at this point. I mean, look, I appreciate you, brother. Nonetheless, you got to know that. Garrett, Ref Snyder was definitely up there as well. For me, it was Ref Snyder and it was Andujar. I think Andujar might actually be the better bat, but Ref Snyder was the cheaper option. I think Andujar is probably going to get multi-year, and maybe you're thinking about like a 3-year, $21 million deal, a 3-year, $24 million. Maybe he gets, 2 for 14 or 2 for 16, something like that. But I think Andujar is going to get a better contract than Ref Snyder. But Andujar, probably number 1 on my list in terms of guys that are not in that top tier, but really help fill a need for your team. It was painful seeing Ref Snyder go to the Mariners. I'm not going to lie. I mean, look, the Rangers, I think, would have been doing pretty well to get him, to see him go to a rival. Painful. We keep on rolling. Let me see here. We need more walks. Yep. I think this is, again, another part of the philosophy with Skip Schumacher. Better at bats, take better pitches, and get on base via the free pass more than what they did in 2025. A guy that really stands out to me, someone that needs to improve in that area, Jake Berger. For as much pop and power as Jake Berger has, you would love to see a guy like him take more walks. I think there's a couple of guys that are in that department as well. Josh Young is one of them. McJay, great minds think alike. Josh Young is another one. I think Young and Berger are the 2 guys that have to get better at taking walks. Josh Smith actually has a pretty good walk rate. We know Corey Seager will take walks. Wyatt Langford, I feel like ebbs and flows. I feel like he has moments where he is super locked in, taking walks, and I feel like Wyatt has moments where he is free swinging. So a little more consistency with Wyatt. We know Evan Carter's got a good eye up at the plate. They don't call him full count Carter for nothing. There's some guys in the mix, but you need to see the Rangers as a whole take more pitches and get on base via the free pass a little bit more. Keep on rolling. Miguel Andujar's Baseball Savant page. Let me check this out. We got just a little bit more time left in the show. We've been hanging out, over an hour already? Jeez, that went by quick. A lot to talk about today. So what you like about Andujar is the expected batting average, 64th percentile, the batting run value, 66th percentile, and you've got a guy that just does not strike out a lot. So when Miguel Andujar swings, he makes contact. So this is a guy that does not strike out very much. He doesn't swing and miss very much. Miguel Andujar is not a walks guy. We were just talking about that. That is a negative about Andujar. He does not walk, 10th percentile in walk rate, but 86th percentile in whiff percentage, and you've got 87th percentile in the K percentage. I mean, like I said, this is a guy that doesn't strike out, doesn't miss when he decides to pull the trigger. I like that. Putting the ball in play, I think, in this offense is so huge, and you would love to see the Rangers do double, if not triple, the amount that they did in 2025. Way too many bad ABs, strikeouts, just bad at bats. And that's something that the Rangers, I know in the offseason, are really trying to get better and better at. All right, y'all. Hey, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap things up. Next week, we'll probably do Wednesday again if I had to guess. And, of course, emergency lives will happen If the Rangers sign somebody big, they get Miguel Andujar, we'll talk about it. We'll probably pop on the live. They go out and they get a Chris Bassett. They get a big name. Look, I love Jakob Junis. No disrespect to Jakob Junis. I'm not sure Jakob Junis is emergency live worthy. And I hope that you're okay with that. But if we do go out and we get somebody of note, I will absolutely hop on the live. We'll talk about it and we will hash everything out. I would really love to be able to do that, y'all. I fear that the Rangers may be done with the hitting side of things. I know Andujar has been reported as being a Texas target. I hope that that is accurate. I hope it happens. Surely there's at least one move still up Fenstermaker and CY sleeve. Surely. I would love if we could be back here in less than a week on a random whatever it is, talking about a big move that the Rangers just made to better themselves ahead for 2026. Mike, thank you. I needed a little affirmation there. I don't think Junis is emergency press conference, emergency podcast worthy. Nothing against the guy. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be solid for the Rangers this year. I really do. But look, we go get Andujar. We go get a Chris Bassett. We go get a Zach Gallen. We'll be hopping on. We'll make it happen. Trading for Ketel Marte would be huge, but I think the Diamondbacks were pretty firm out there that he is off the market. I would love Ketel Marte. I think that would be an outstanding pick for him. All right, y'all. Have a great rest of the night and a good weekend ahead. I will probably put out some content at some point over the next few days. If you haven't hit that follow button yet, hit that follow or subscribe button. Stay up to date with all the latest and greatest content. We're over on X posting a lot, formerly Twitter. We're over on Threads. We're on Facebook. We're on just about everything. So you want to keep up in the in-between times, follow me over on one of those channels. Would love to get you in the mix over there. Thank you so much for all the comments today. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Don't ever take this for granted. That's why I started this. I love chatting. I love chilling, talking ball, talking Rangers baseball. It's the reason I do this, y'all. So thank you. Means a lot. Mike, no worries, man. And always, you can catch us on the replay. All of our lives are always on YouTube after the show. So you ever can't make a live, go check us out on YouTube. Everything's recorded there. Love y'all. And as I always say to end every show, God bless and go Rangers.